I didn't realize how alone I felt until he asked if I needed a ride. The corridor was almost empty when we stopped. The noise of the station stayed behind us, muted, distant, irrelevant. For the first time since the night before, there was nothing pressing in from all sides. David stood beside me, hands in the pockets of his coat, close enough to be present, enough to be careful. "I can drive you back to the hotel," he said. "No questions, no talking, if you don't want to." The offer landed gently, not like help, but like permission. I hesitated, not because I didn't trust him, but because trusting anyone felt like a skill I'd forgotten how to use. "All right," I said. My voice sounded thin, but real. Outside, the cold met us again, clean, unforgiving. Snow still falling, steady and indifferent. His car was parked just off to the side. Nothing official, nothing marked, just a dark vehicle waiting with its engine already warm. He opened the door for me. I flinched, only slightly, when it closed. David noticed and said nothing. That mattered. Inside the car, silence settled between us. Not awkward, just alert, the kind that listens. The heater hummed quietly. Snow brushed against the windshield in soft, repetitive streaks. David drove with both hands on the wheel, eyes on the road. He didn't rush, didn't fill the space just to prove he could. After a while, he told me something he said would stay between us, that the fact we knew each other from before, from childhood, didn't have to complicate anything, that he could still work the case, that it wouldn't be a conflict. He said it carefully, like a reassurance. Then he said something else, that he would do everything in his power to find who did this, whoever killed my husband. The words settled slowly, one by one, like snow piling up where you don't notice it until it's too heavy. At first it sounded like comfort. Then it turned. Because I knew how he worked, how thorough he was, how seriously he took his job. And suddenly, his promise didn't sound like protection anymore. It sounded like a timeline, a future where he kept digging, asking, uncovering, until he reached me. I stared out the window, forcing my breathing to stay even. My hands were folded tightly in my lap. I felt his gaze shift, just briefly, toward me. Not invasive, not suspicious, observant. His eyes lingered for a moment on my scarf, the way it was wrapped a little too high around my neck, a little too tight, as if some part of him noticed the inconsistency, filed it away. I didn't move, didn't adjust it. Don't give him anything. He looked back to the road. The silence returned, but it wasn't empty anymore. It carried weight now, intent. When we stopped at a red light, he told me I could call him if I needed anything, that I didn't have to go through this alone. He said it like someone offering help. I heard it like someone leaving a door unlocked. I watched him reach into his coat and hand me a small card. I took it without really looking. In that moment, it felt like just another detail in a day already overflowing with them. The hotel came into view sooner than I expected. David slowed down, then stopped at the curb. The engine kept running. For a moment, neither of us moved. The warmth inside the car felt temporary now, borrowed. "Try to rest," he said. "I'll be in touch." I nodded. Of course I did. I opened the door, the cold rushing in immediately, sharp, unforgiving. Before I stepped out, I paused. "David?" I said quietly. He turned to look at me, fully this time. "Yes?" "Thank you for bringing me back." Something crossed his face. Not quite a smile, not quite regret. "You're welcome," he said. I stepped out. The door closed behind me with a soft, final sound. He waited until I was inside the hotel, until the glass doors slid shut between us, before driving away. Later, much later, when the room was dark and quiet again, I reached into my coat pocket. My fingers closed around the card. I hadn't looked at it before. I hadn't wanted to. There was no department logo, no office line, no extension. Just a name and a number. His number. Not the one detectives give to witnesses, not the one meant for procedure. I lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Only then did I understand what I hadn't allowed myself to see in the car. The ride home hadn't been professional. And the promise he made, to find the person who did this, had already placed us on opposite sides of the truth. Back in my room, the door closed behind me with a sound that felt heavier than it should have. I leaned against it for a moment, not to rest, but to remind myself that I was still standing. The room looked the same as I had left it, the bed untouched, the curtains half drawn, the faint smell of hotel soap still hanging in the air. It should have felt safe. It didn't. I crossed the room slowly, as if the floor might shift beneath my feet if I moved too fast. My coat slid from my shoulders and landed on the chair without a sound. I stood in front of the mirror and waited for recognition. The woman looking back at me felt delayed, as if she was arriving a few seconds after every thought. My eyes were there, my mouth, my hair pulled back too tightly, but something essential was missing. I didn't look like someone who had survived. I looked like someone who hadn't caught up yet. My gaze drifted to my neck. Carefully, almost ceremonially, I touched the edge of my scarf, just enough to check. The skin beneath was tender, sore, faintly swollen. I didn't need a mirror to know what I would find. Fingers, pressure. The memory came without images, only sensation, the echo of something too familiar. I let the scarf fall back into place. Not now. I turned away from the mirror. I sat on the edge of the bed and pressed my palms into the mattress. It was cold, untouched, exactly the way I had left it. A memory. A piano bench. Polished wood. Cold at first, then warming under my thighs. My hands remembered before my mind did. The way my fingers used to hover, the split second before the first note, the quiet anticipation. I closed my eyes. I could almost hear it. The low register first, a slow progression, sound filling a room that had once been mine. I used to play for him. Not Robert, David. Not often, not formally, just sometimes, when we were young, when the world hadn't decided what we would become yet. He used to sit on the floor, back against the wall, watching my hands like they were doing something impossible, like I was doing something sacred. The memory cracked apart suddenly. Antlers, wood, the weight of them in my grip. My hands curled involuntarily. I pulled them back into my lap, forcing them open. I don't know when the piano stopped belonging to me. I only know that one day, my fingers did. Hilda's face surfaced without warning, the way she had sat in the station, hands folded too tightly, eyes darting just a fraction too often. Why had she looked like that? Not shocked, not grieving. Something else. Something closed. I tried to remember the last weeks, the way she had complained of nausea, headaches, fatigue. "Just a bug," she'd said. I had believed her. Or maybe I had wanted to. The thought slipped in quietly, almost apologetically. What if she hadn't been sick? What if she had been hiding something? My stomach tightened. I pushed the thought away. Not yet. I lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. The cracks above me formed shapes I didn't want to follow. I had planned it. Not the moment, not the outcome, but the thought had lived inside me. Quiet, persistent. I had stepped back from it, convinced myself that stopping was enough. Now I wasn't so sure. When had I crossed that line? At what point does a person stop being someone who wants to escape and become someone capable of killing? The question sat heavy in my chest. I didn't feel like a murderer. I felt like someone who had missed a moment, a crucial second, and was now living in the aftermath. My memory was still fogged, edges blurred, the center missing. Shock, I told myself. Trauma. Adrenaline. But another voice whispered underneath it all. You have to remember. Not because the police would ask, not because David would, but because I couldn't live inside this uncertainty. I needed to know what I had done. Exactly. Clearly. Without excuses. Without fear reshaping it into something else. My hands clenched into the sheets. I have to remember. I have to be sure. I have to know what really happened that night. Because if I don't, someone else will remember it for me. And they won't be as gentle. Outside, snow continued to fall. Patient, indifferent, covering everything evenly. Inside, something had already begun to crack.